Welcome to Emergency Action and Fire Prevention Training, provided by Channel Fish Processing. In this training course today we will discuss the following topics. A Site Emergency Action Plan, also known as an EAP. How to correctly respond to fire emergencies. A Site Fire Prevention Plan, also known as a FPP. How to correctly respond to medical emergencies. Chemical spill procedures. Severe weather and natural disaster procedures. And finally, extended power loss procedures. Section 1. Introduction to Emergency Response. Our goal in this section is to answer the following questions. What is considered an emergency? Are there different types of emergencies? What is an emergency action plan? EAP. Who is going to handle the emergency? What is the step-by-step plan? Let's start from the top. What is considered an emergency? A workplace emergency is an unexpected event or situation that may endanger the safety or well-being of employees or the public. It may also disrupt or shut down operations and cause physical or environmental damage. Understanding and preparing for workplace emergencies is crucial for ensuring the safety of everyone involved and minimizing the impact of such events. Emergency preparedness can be obtained through protocol guidance and training. Are there different types of emergencies? Yes. Workplace emergencies encompass a wide range of situations, both natural and man-made, that threaten the safety of employees, customers, or the public. These can include fires. Fires can be caused by various factors like electrical malfunctions, faulty equipment, or improper handling of flammable materials. Medical emergencies. Medical emergencies include incidents like injuries, illnesses, or sudden medical conditions requiring immediate medical attention. Chemical spills and hazardous material incidents. Exposure to certain hazardous chemicals can cause serious health problems and require specialized cleanup and response procedures. Natural disasters. Workplaces can be affected by earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, or other extreme weather events, requiring emergency evacuation and safety protocols. Power outages. Loss of power or electrical accidents can disrupt operations and pose safety risks, requiring backup systems and safety procedures. And workplace violence. This can involve threats, harassment, or physical violence from employees, customers, or others, requiring security measures and response plans. What is an emergency action plan? An emergency action plan, or EAP, is a written document on site required by OSHA Standards 29 CFR 1910.38. The purpose of an EAP is to facilitate and organize employer and employee actions during workplace emergencies. The best EAP includes a list of individuals' responsibilities, and their contact information, evacuation routes, how to act during an emergency, and detailed communication procedures to follow during and after a specific emergency occurs. Who is going to handle an emergency? A supervisor. The supervisor will always assess the emergency for you. If you notice something, say something to your supervisor. They are the ones trained to evaluate an emergency and to contact the proper personnel to help handle the particular type of emergency. If the situation requires emergency outside services, a supervisor will make that call and alert upper management as well. What is the step-by-step plan during emergencies? There are different levels of severity for each type of emergency. The following sections are going to train you which steps you need to follow during each type of emergency. If you forget any of the trained steps, please follow your supervisor's instruction. In the case of an evacuation, please follow designated signage and the fire captains to your primary assigned assembly area. Section 2. Fire-related emergencies. The following section will go over topics to better prepare you to prevent and/or navigate a fire-related emergency. These topics include understanding the basic components of fire, fire prevention, the importance of good housekeeping and employee training, fire extinguisher use, and evacuation. Understanding the basic components of fire. The definition of fire is a rapid oxidation reaction that produces energy in the form of heat and light. The basic components of fire are commonly represented by the fire triangle, which includes fuel, oxygen, and heat. Fuel. This is any combustible material that can be burned. Examples include wood, paper, fabric, liquids, gases, and plastics. Oxygen. Oxygen is a necessary oxidizer for fuel to burn. The air we breathe contains enough oxygen to support fire. Heat. Heat is the energy needed to initiate combustion and keep the fire burning. Removing any one of these components can extinguish a fire. For example, using a fire extinguisher to remove oxygen disrupts the chemical reaction to stop a fire. Fires are classified into different classes based on the type of fuel they involve. The 5 main classes are: Class A, solid combustibles. Examples include wood, paper, cloth, and some plastics. Class B, flammable liquids. Examples include gasoline and oils. Class C, electrical fires. These fires involve energized electrical equipment. Electrical fires should be extinguished using non-conductive agents. If possible, try to remove the energy from the electrical equipment by shutting it down or taking it offline first. Class D, combustible metals. Examples include magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And lastly, Class K, cooking oils and fats. It is very important to notify your supervisor if you think there is a fire or potential fire. This way they can have certified personnel identify and evaluate the correct class of fire. Fire prevention. The definition of prevention is the action of stopping something from happening or arising. The FFP or Fire Prevention Plan, similar to the EAP, is another on-site essential written plan that aims to minimize the risk of fires and ensure the safety of employees in the event of a fire. It includes strategies for fire prevention, detection, suppression, and egress. In this section, we will talk about ways to prevent fires through identification training and maintaining good housekeeping practices. Good housekeeping practices. Housekeeping plays a critical role in fire prevention. Keeping your workplace clean and organized not only prevents the ignition start and spread of a fire, but it also helps keep exits clear and fire response equipment accessible. To maintain good housekeeping in the workplace, you should always dispose of rags contaminated with oils or solvents in appropriate metal containers. Keep all aisles and exits clear. Don't allow combustible materials such as cardboard, paper, or wood to accumulate. Keep all dusts under control, particularly around motors and hot machinery. Keep access to emergency response equipment clear. This includes fire extinguishers and first aid boxes. Make sure chemicals and gas tanks in your area are always stowed correctly and away from any potential ignition sources. General fire hazard identification. General fire hazard identification involves identifying anything that could start a fire, allow it to develop and spread, or provide oxygen for the fire to burn. This includes ignition sources, combustible materials, and potential oxygen sources. Ignition source examples include electrical equipment. Faulty wiring, overloaded outlets, or improper use of appliances can spark, as well as strong static electricity. Smoking. Improper disposal of smoking materials is a common cause of fires. Cooking. Unattended hot oil or grease can easily ignite. Welding or grinding. These activities can produce sparks. And other heat sources. Potential oxygen source examples include air vents, air conditioning systems, oxygen cylinders, and oxidizing agents. Potential combustible materials include paper, wood, and textiles. Common fuels for fire. Packaging materials can readily ignite and spark flames. Trash. Flammable liquids and gases. Substances like gasoline, oil, and solvents are highly flammable. Combustible dusts. Dust accumulation in workshops or manufacturing areas can ignite if exposed to heat. And combustible hydraulic fluids. The importance of employee training. Do you know your role during a fire? Unless you have been trained and certified with Channel Fish Processing EHS, your role during an actual fire or fire drill is the following. 1. To remain calm and do not panic. If you are notifying your supervisor of your findings, you want to speak as clear as possible. 2. You do not use a fire extinguisher unless you have been trained and certified to do so. You should also not call 911. Notify your supervisor. Supervisors are trained to assess and call 911. 3. If you hear an alarm or your supervisor is notifying you to evacuate, please move towards your nearest emergency exit and follow your designated evacuation route or coordinator's instruction for your working area. 4. Once you have exited the building, please move towards your assigned primary assembly area and wait for further instructions. If evacuating, only trained and designated employees will shut down non-essential operations and equipment. Listed below are different pre-assigned roles for fire emergencies here at Channel Fish Processing. At the top is the evacuation officers. They are responsible for coordinating the safe and orderly evacuation of the entire building. This includes supervising the assembly points, ensuring all occupants are accounted for, and assisting anyone who may need help evacuating. Our current evacuation officers are the VP of Ops, Director of Ops, EHS Manager, Director of Maintenance, and the Business Support Manager. Next comes our evacuation captains. Their primary role is to lead a safe and orderly evacuation of the building employees as well. They direct people to their designated assembly areas, check areas for all occupants, and communicate with evacuation coordinators. Typically, this role is occupied by directors or department managers. After that comes our evacuation coordinators, often referred to as a fire warden. Coordinators ensure the safe and orderly evacuation of all occupants from a building or designated area. This involves taking all names for muster for accountability, checking for anyone who may need medical assistance, and communicating with evacuation captains. Evacuation coordinators are typically assistant managers, supervisors, or leads. Non-emergency role employees. If you have not been designated or trained to be in a fire emergency role listed above by Channel Fish Processing, you are considered a non-emergency role employee. Your responsibilities include evacuating yourself from the building safely by following designated evacuation routes, remaining at your primary assembly point until muster has been taken and you have been dismissed by evacuation coordinator or captain, and knowing how to report a fire to your supervisor. Employee evacuation training. After exiting the facility, employees will report to their primary assembly area. If the primary assembly area cannot be used, employees will assemble at an alternate assembly area. Assigned assembly areas will be provided to each employee based on their department, with further training on their evacuation routes, emergency exits, and fire extinguisher locations. Please remember that if you exit to the rear of the building, those employees shall walk calmly to the designated assembly areas at the front of the building and immediately check in the evacuation captain. The evacuation captains will not allow the assembly area to be released until all area employees, visitors, and contractors have been accounted for. Non-emergency role employees will not attempt to go home or otherwise leave the area until muster has been taken and the assembly area has been released by an evacuation coordinator or captain. The evacuation captain will also not allow employees to re-enter the facility until clearance is given by the fire or police department incident commander. Fire extinguishers. Never attempt to fight a fire on site, unless you have been trained, certified, and designated to do so by Channel Fish Processing EHS. If you are trained and designated to use an extinguisher, always remember the following. 1. A fire extinguisher should only be used in situations where the fire is considered small, contained, or manageable, usually under 4 feet in height. 2. If you are trained and confident to attempt to put out a small fire with an extinguisher, make sure it is the right class of fire, A, B, C, D, or K. 3. Stand at a safe distance, usually 6 to 8 feet, from the fire and ensure that you have a clear exit route at all times, should the extinguisher fail. 4. Remember the PASS method. The PASS method. P, A, S, S. The P in PASS stands for pull. Step 1 when using an extinguisher is to pull the pin out of the extinguisher. The A in PASS stands for aim. Step 2 when using an extinguisher is to aim at the base of the fire. The first S in PASS stands for squeeze. Step 3 when using an extinguisher is to squeeze the handle. And the last S stands for sweep. Step 4 when using an extinguisher is to use a sweep motion at the base of the fire while still squeezing. PASS equals pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Section 3. Medical-related emergencies. The following section will go over topics to prepare you to navigate a medical-related emergency. Understanding the different levels of severity related to medical emergencies. The importance of incident, accident reporting. The importance of certified first aid response and post-incident steps. Reporting the medical emergency. If you see something, say something. Always report a possible medical emergency to your supervisor. If you cannot find your direct supervisor, find another supervisor. If you notice a potential sign of any level of medical emergency, you must report it to your direct supervisor. Your supervisor will take over once you have notified them of your findings, and they will assess the level of urgency. Like a fire emergency, if outside emergency services are needed, your supervisor will call 911. You should not. Multiple calls can congest any emergency line. Your supervisor may ask you to fill out an accident report after the situation has resolved. What is considered urgent? Medical incidents in the workplace can range from minor to severe, impacting employees. These incidents are often categorized based on the level of harm or severity, ranging from minor injuries to life-threatening situations. Understanding each level is crucial for first aid roles, accurate reporting, and accident prevention in the workplace. Next, we will go over the different levels of severity related to medical attention needed in the workplace. Understanding different medical urgency. There are 3 main levels of urgency that we can categorize for a medical emergency. 1. Minor injuries, non-life-threatening. 2. Moderate injuries and illnesses. And 3. Life-threatening emergencies. Let's start with examples of minor injuries. These could include sprains or strains, minor cuts, burns, blisters or abrasions. The response is to alert your supervisor of your injury. They will help you to get the medical supplies you need. If you need assistance with first aid, your supervisor can guide you to the nearest first aid responder. The usual course of treatment for a minor injury is a first aid assessment, cleaning the affected area, potentially bandaging a wound, or sometimes ice. These types of injuries might need further medical attention in rare cases. Next, we will talk about moderate medical injuries or emergencies. These could include fractures, dislocations, allergic reactions, or certain types of asthma attacks. The response is alert your supervisor of the emergency. They will work with a first aid responder to assess the situation further. More often, the first aid responder will triage the injury or reaction until the employee can be seen in an ER or urgent care. If outside emergency services are needed, the supervisor or first aid responder will make the call. Lastly, we will go over life-threatening emergencies. Examples could include cardiac arrest, stroke, severe allergic reactions with anaphylaxis, difficulty breathing, no response, or major trauma. These treatments might call for immediate life-saving interventions, potentially requiring CPR, defibrillation, and emergency transportation. Response. Alert your supervisor. Typically, your supervisor may call 911 immediately. First aid response will provide medical support to the best of their ability and await the arrival of emergency medical services. Reminder. You should not make the call to 911, as to not congest the emergency services phone lines, and should instead move away from the area. If the situation is being handled by first aid or EMS, they will need space to work. The importance of first aid response. A first aid responder is someone who has received specialized training, certification to provide basic medical care, such as first aid, CPR or AED services, before more advanced medical professionals like paramedics or EMTs arrive. If you think you may need first aid, 1. Alert your supervisor. This is true for all levels of severity. If you only need a band-aid or cleaning supplies, your supervisor can direct you to the nearest designated first aid station. 2. If your supervisor suggests to have a first aid responder evaluate your injury, you can say no. We usually recommend reporting everything to EHS so that injury information will be documented. 3. If you say yes to first aid, the responder may provide you with care and potential follow-up steps depending on your injury. This will also be documented with your injury report. Evacuation routes and first aid. Designated signage can help you locate the following: your work area's closest first aid responder by shift, and what they look like. Your work area's closest first aid station. This is for supplies and someone to help you locate a first aid responder as well. Your closest designated emergency exit. Your designated and alternate emergency evacuation routes. Fire extinguishers in your work area. And an AED if there is one present in your work area. Post-incident steps. What happens after an injury occurs? Answer. After first aid has been provided, a few more steps may occur. 1. The scene of the injury will be assessed again for any cleanup. If there is blood, designated employees who have a specific certificate may need to perform certain cleaning measures to prevent exposure from bloodborne pathogens. 2. The accident report forms may need your help to be completed by your supervisor. If you have suffered an injury or witnessed an injury, you are responsible to provide as much detail as possible to complete the paperwork. 3. Depending on the situation, a supervisor or first aid responder may have to provide the information to HR and/or follow-up services such as an emergency room. Other potential evacuation emergencies. Besides fire and medical, there are other emergencies that may require the facility to evacuate. Other evacuation emergencies may include chemical spills and releases, severe weather and natural disasters such as earthquakes, flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, and power outages. Section 4. Chemical spills and releases. In this section we will go over communication, control, evacuation, containment and cleanup related to chemical spills or releases. If you notice a chemical has spilled, do not attempt to clean it up. Immediately notify your supervisor. If you notice any unusual chemical smell, if your eyes start to burn a little, or you visually see a chemical spill, you must notify your supervisor. Your supervisor will work with certified personnel to evaluate the situation. Depending on the severity, you may have to evacuate the building. Some spills may be contained without causing harm. Your supervisor or the certified personnel will use the EAP, Emergency Action Plan, to respond to the proper procedure by using the appropriate PPE, personal protective equipment, to remediate the issue or contact emergency services. Watch for any visual or audio alarms if an evacuation is necessary. You will follow the same designated evacuation route to your primary assembly area. Securing the spill. Employee access may be restricted to the spill area unless certified for cleanup. If you are already certified and designated for cleanup, please do the following steps. Control. Isolate the spill area to prevent further spread and exposure. Contain. Use barriers, dikes, or absorbent materials to contain the spill and prevent it from spreading. Maintenance has a designated spill kit materials to contain the spill. Cleanup. Utilize appropriate absorbent materials from the spill kit and proper disposal methods for the spilled substance. Documentation and reporting. A supervisor must document the spill, the actions taken, and any injuries or exposures. EHS or facility management may be required to report the spill to the appropriate emergency response team or authorities, especially if it involves hazardous materials or exceeds reportable quantities. Chemical spills and release resources. When a chemical spill occurs in the workplace, it's crucial to have a systematic approach to ensure safety and minimize potential harm. This involves using the relevant safety datasheet, SDS, wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, and following a series of steps for cleanup. Always have assistance when cleaning up a spill with another certified person. Consult the SDS for the spilled chemical name to identify hazards and recommended response procedures. The following sections of the SDS will help provide important information and resources when cleaning a chemical spill. Section 2. Hazards Identification. This section outlines the potential dangers of the chemical, including health hazards, physical hazards, and environmental hazards. Section 8. Exposure Controls, Personal Protection. This section details exposure limits, engineering controls, and personal protective equipment, PPE, necessary to minimize worker exposure to the chemical. Section 6. Accidental Release Measures. This section outlines procedures for handling spills, leaks, or releases, including containment, cleanup, and waste disposal. If you need a reference to first aid measures with a specific chemical, you can find the information located in Section 4 of the SDS. CO2 and ammonia. Both ammonia and CO2 pose unique hazards that are addressed in the company EAP. Emergency plans outline specific actions for each substance, including PPE, evacuation procedures, and coordination with local emergency responders. Ammonia is a corrosive, flammable, and potentially toxic gas, requiring specialized PPE and emergency response procedures. CO2, while not directly toxic, is an asphyxiant, meaning it displaces oxygen and can lead to suffocation. Next, we will take a closer look at ammonia and CO2 release procedures. Ammonia. All ammonia odors identified in production work areas or outside the facility must be reported immediately to the area supervisor. The area supervisor shall immediately contact the facility manager to initiate an investigation of the source of the ammonia smell. The facility manager and AMP, Director of Operations, shall evaluate the need for evacuation. If the ammonia smell is mild, refrigeration personnel shall be summoned and use calibrated ppm monitor. If the ammonia smell is strong, refrigeration personnel may be summoned, and the immediate area of the ammonia smell may be evacuated. The responding refrigeration personnel will determine the ammonia concentration utilizing the ammonia detection readings from the remote panel to determine the proper emergency response required. If an evacuation is required, please proceed to your designated primary assembly area. If your primary assembly area cannot be used, employees will assemble at the alternate assembly area, allocated by an evacuation captain. CO2 alarm system notifications. Fixed CO2 gas monitoring systems are used to constantly monitor CO2 levels at channel fish processing. These systems have visual and audible alarms that activate at certain levels. If only the amber light is flashing, it means there is a low-level alarm. If this happens, you will notify your supervisor, leave the direct area, and maintenance will assess and/or ventilate. If an alarm siren sounds and light flashes, it means there is a high-level alarm. You will be instructed to evacuate the building immediately. If an evacuation is required, please proceed to your designated primary assembly area. If your primary assembly area cannot be used, employees will assemble at the alternate assembly area, allocated by an evacuation captain. Section 5. Severe weather and natural disasters. Tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, and earthquakes. When to shelter and when to evacuate. Tornadoes and hurricanes. Massachusetts is susceptible to tropical storms and hurricanes, particularly during the Atlantic hurricane season, June 1st to November 30th. While not as frequent as in some other coastal states, hurricanes can still cause significant damage and flooding. Tornadoes are less frequent in Massachusetts compared to states in the Midwest, like the Tornado Alley, but they may still occur. Upon issuance of a tornado or hurricane warning by the local weather bureau, the facility will evaluate and prepare for shutdown of operations in a systematic manner. The shutdown will only occur if there is an immediate threat to employees or to the ammonia system components. Those employees that are not essential to shutdown will be allowed to go to a designated shelter area or instructed to go home. After the event, maintenance and facility personnel will enter the building first to inspect for leaking pipes, damaged electrical lines, and structural damage. If no damage is identified, the employees will return to work. If damage is found, the proper response will be initiated. Earthquakes and flooding. While not common, smaller earthquakes are felt in Massachusetts roughly every 2 to 3 years, and more damaging quakes occur about twice a century. However, flooding is a common hazard in Massachusetts, and it's becoming more frequent and severe due to climate change. In case of a larger earthquake in the workplace, the primary action is to drop, cover, and hold on. No matter where you are, take cover under a sturdy desk, table, or other furniture, and hold on to it until the shaking stops. Avoid danger spots near windows, hanging objects, or taller furniture. Evacuation should be considered only after the shaking has stopped and if the building is deemed unsafe. If the building is damaged or authorities recommend it, evacuate as outlined in the emergency evacuation procedures of the EAP. After the event, maintenance and facility management personnel will enter the buildings first to inspect for leaking pipes, damaged electrical lines, and structural damage. If no damage is identified, the employees will return to the facility. If damage is found, the proper response will be initiated. Section 6. Power outages. If the lights go out in your workplace area, please remain where you are standing. Your area lead or supervisor will provide further instructions. If the power should go out in the facility, there is emergency lighting that will come on. If you are instructed by your area supervisor to evacuate your area, you will follow the illuminated route to your nearest emergency exit. From there you will proceed to your primary assembly area. This is the end of the emergency action and fire prevention training video. Thank you on behalf of Channel Fish Processing for watching.